Hi, and welcome back to Sounds Like Freedom. I'm your host, Deborah Henne, and I'm here with Dan Portik, who is a seasoned professional whose journey has been shaped by his diverse passions and wide-ranging skills. Growing up in the rural outskirts of Cleveland, Ohio, his deep love for music propelled him forward and eventually led him to develop a profound understanding of sales and marketing. With over 3 decades of experience as a successful business owner and a steadfast commitment to his Christian faith, Dan has honed his expertise in effectively managing marketing and video production companies. Throughout his career, Dan has achieved measurable success, generating millions of dollars through advertising and video production services. His exceptional abilities have garnered attention from major corporations worldwide, seeking his guidance in developing marketing strategies that deliver tangible and measurable results. Recognizing the value of sharing his knowledge, Dan has ventured into the world of authorship, co-authoring and authoring a series of impactful books. Dan's published works have earned widespread acclaim for their ability to empower readers with invaluable insights into sales, marketing, and online negotiation. Notably, his collaboration with esteemed sales trainer Tom Hopkins resulted in the creation of the best-selling book, Fill Your Funnel. This transformative guide illuminates the act of prospecting, and selling by leveraging the power of social media. Additionally, Dan and his team recently produced their first full-length movie about the life and times of Tom Hopkins called Master of Sales. In his latest manuscript, The Secret Online Door, Dan provides a comprehensive blueprint of successful online techniques he has skillfully employed throughout his career. By delving deep into his strategies, he reveals how he has effectively reached and negotiated with individuals of many levels of status. Embracing his proven methods presents readers with the opportunity to unlock new possibilities and achieve unparalleled success in today's ever-evolving digital landscape. Take advantage of the wealth of knowledge offered by Dan, a genuine expert in sales, marketing, and online negotiation. And you can immerse yourself in his books and discover the secrets to maximizing your potential in the dynamic business landscape of today. Welcome, Dan.
Hello. Wow, AI really knows how to push the profiles. No
Yeah, I
chance
haven't
we can
gotten
do
too
that.
much into that as a, I don't know, I'm a diehard writer at heart, and my husband is always, he's kind of more the business guy,
Yeah.
and and he doesn't like to write, but of course he
Okay.
has to do some. So he's like, "You should try AI. You should try AI." And I'm like, "I can't. It's
Yeah.
the
Yeah.
artist and the writer, wordsmith in me. I just
Right,
can't
right,
go
right.
there."
Well, unfortunately, all my books were manually done. It was before AI. So, but we use it every day. I'm really surprised. It actually, helps a lot in areas, certain areas.
So you're from Ohio. Can you tell
Mhm.
us a little bit more about your journey into this? You talked about your interest in music, and then
Mhm.
that branched into the sales and the marketing. Can you tell us a little bit about that?
Yeah, growing up, I was a musician, all through school, and then afterwards, I, played in a rock band for many years. Just it was just one of those things. I was young, you want to be a rock star, just like everybody else in the, my era, the '80s and '90s. I'm kind of dating myself, but and then after a while, some of the guys in the band, they all went their different directions. We all splintered off and did different things, and I got introduced into sales and marketing through a health club at the time, a local health club, and it intrigued me. And it's funny because sometimes musicians are the best salespeople. They're just used to being in front of people, and they make it much. It seems to be that way from what I could tell. So I kind of filled in really quick on it and really enjoyed it, and learned a lot through a mentor of mine, Tom Hopkins, through his books and training, which led into more with him later in life. So that's kind of my journey. And I started my first ad agency probably about 25 years ago. And it was with two gentlemen. I had a phone and a desk and 100 calls a day until we made business. Water from a rock was what it was back then. And it grew into something pretty nice over the past 15, 20 years. So.
That's amazing. So it sounds like God really just kind of put you in the right place with the right people and took you step by step to where you are
He
today.
did, and what I find with God and Jesus is they have a tendency to give you nudges in the right direction, whether you like it or not. And there were several points, but I can only imagine playing in a band over the years. The things that there were some very low spots, in my life with drugs, alcohol. I mean, it was all commonplace back then. And there was a couple where he just scooped me up and pulled me out of the muck and said, it's time to get on the right path. And a couple of those really really made a difference for me. um, Church CYO, I was grabbed by a bunch of guys that I know and said, you got to go to this. And that really opened up, it was like a weekend thing, and it really opened up a lot of my eyes to God and what he is capable of. And it put me back in the right path. That was one of the many times. So it was very interesting.
That's awesome. And now, last episode, we actually had a couple on whose husband had struggled with drug addiction and whatnot, and overcame that.
Mhm.
So, what was something that you found particularly helpful with breaking free of that type of lifestyle?
Well, it was just really odd. The first time I did this, it was with the CYO. I was probably like 23, different person than I am today. And by the fact that some of the other guys in the band actually pulled me out of this and brought me to this weekend, that just blew me away. I didn't realize people could be that way and not self-serving and selfless. One of the exercises was to blindfold the new people. We were kind of like the new people there, and they would walk you around, and then the one person said, okay, take your blindfold off. And I was on the edge of a cliff, and it was all about trust. And I was like, wow, not a big clip, but it was one that was like, whoa, where am I? And it was all about trust. And it was very impactful that weekend. I came back a different person. And it made a big difference in my life. So hopefully that answers the question.
So it sounds like there was a really good support group, and you got like a taste and a glimmer of hope in
Yeah,
a totally different way of life, and it gave
yeah,
you a goal. It sounds like you said, okay, that's what I want, and then just kind of taking different steps than what you were accustomed to taking, saying, you know
right.
what, tomorrow I'm going to get up and I'm going to make a different choice.
Yeah, and it was that fast. It was 180 instantly. I went back. I was booted out of my house. I moved back to with my parents and got back on my feet, and it was a good experience for me, and it helped a lot. And actually, I was introduced at that point to the teachings of Tony Robbins, of all people. He was just starting out. He was called Anthony Robbins back then, with the cassette tapes. And I found that. I just said, you know what, let me put one of these in. And I found a cassette tape called, I think it was called, The Giant Within, or something like that. It was the first one he ever put out. And I listened to that, and that it came to me from out of nowhere, and then it just brought me into that world. And I was in the phone book. I said, all right, I'm going to become a salesman. So I put my hand down on the thing, and it was a health club place. So I went in there. I sold myself to the person there, and he says, I'll give you a shot. Come on in, and you're going to learn sales. So I went through a 6-week training course there, and I learned everything about sales, back in the day. And so it was just a path. It just guided me, and I just followed it. And I trusted the people around me and God to get me where I had to go. So
Yeah. And I love that you said that. You said, I just opened the phone book, which now we probably have to go to like Google or something, or
yeah, right.
Yelp.
Yeah, yeah, right.
But I just opened the phone book and I called somebody and I said, "Hey, I'm gonna learn this." And so you had maybe a vision, but you started with right where you were, something manageable, something feasible, something that you could do. And I think of how in Proverbs it talks about, and I think of business, and I think a lot of Proverbs, how it
Sure.
has so many
Mhm.
financial principles in there. And I think of, work like the ant. They make these amazing, amazing structures under the ground,
Yeah,
but do it one little grain at a time.
yeah,
So it's just break it down into something manageable, something small, something you can do right now, and
yeah.
do it.
Hmm. Absolutely
Yeah.
right. And just small steps. Anything you do, you have to start with small steps and build on that, no matter what it is. And don't get discouraged. I mean, people will normally get discouraged no matter what, but if you have a good faith and you understand that you're not the only one doing this to get, there's someone with you at all times, no matter what. Doesn't seem like it sometimes, but there is. That makes a big difference.
And I think sometimes God does that to build that grit in us and that endurance. Because if we don't have that level of character built and forged into us, which you only get through life experience, you can't get that
Right.
anywhere else.
Right.
We'll give up and we'll miss the blessing that He has for us. We'll miss the breakthrough because we didn't have the grit and the character to endure to see it happen.
And that's what kind of frustrates me with a lot of the kids today. They don't have that. The feeling entitlement is it's sad in a way. It's scary, and you feel sorry that they don't have that inner drive that you need to make it in the world. But again, it starts with small steps, and you have to build on it. And you got to want to do it, I guess, is the other factor.
Yeah. So it's so let's say somebody comes to you and they're like, "Hey, what's a good first step? I'm willing to take a small step. What are some things that you would coach them in or counsel them in to get them going?"
In what context? In business or?
Yeah, business.
Okay. So in business, I would say the first thing to do is to get a mentor. I mean, that's really important. Look for the people that are out there doing what you're doing. Most of them have some form of at that level, at a higher level, let's say, most of them have teachings and understandings that, they'll send information out, or you're capable of getting it. And you can learn from people like that. And maybe two levels. One that's kind of unreachable, that's really made it already, and then find somebody that's maybe two steps ahead of you, that you really want to emulate. And I think that whatever your business is, that's probably one of the most important things, um, to growing it, is finding people that are out there that are already doing it, and make sure because they've already been through the mistakes. They've been through the problems, and definitely don't have an ego, because ego is going to burn you every time. It really will. You have to be selfless and be willing to want to learn. Ambition, that's a different story. You need ambition, but there's a fine line between ego and ambition. So, that would be my opinion and my suggestions.
I think that's great. I love that. And I love there's a difference between ego and ambition. So if somebody's kind of taking their heart and they're trying to sift their heart, they're saying, well, how do I know if this is ego or if this is ambition? Do you have any suggestions to help them with that heart sifting process?
Yeah. If it has to be selfless, it must be selfless, and that's the most important thing. Who are you benefiting with your goals? I mean, is it ultimately you, or is it ultimately others around you? Um, it's a fine line there too, but I strongly think that that's important to make it selfless. When I have my company, yes, I want to provide for my family. I want to take care of, myself, and, keep everything going. But at the same time, I want to take care of my employees. I want to make sure that they have a place to go every day and get a paycheck. And I care about what happens in their lives too. So, that I think is a big thing. The other thing is, talk to your friends, and talk. Hey, ask them what they think of you and what they think of your ambitions. They'll be good friends. Will be brutally honest with you, and they'll tell you, hey, you know what? Maybe that's not the way you should be going, or maybe you should want to change your pitch a little bit. Whatever it might be.
Okay. All great advice. Now, you have some projects out there, some books out there. Can you tell us about those and where we can find them, what we might find in them?
Yeah. So I've got four books out and a fifth one on its way. So the four are basically about negotiating, online sales, and online, primarily one-to-one selling online, and using how to use the internet and emails to close sales, to prospect, all really effective things that I've learned mostly from the Tom Hopkins techniques, over the years, and being able to, meet him and work with him. So that's the majority of the books. The new one's totally different. It is a fiction book, called Deer Evil, and it's about evil deer that, turn into monsters, and definitely a departure, but it's total fiction, and I want to get that one out fairly soon. I really have been struggling with it a little bit. It's done and it's ready to go, but I'm just trying to think of the best way to push it out there and get a publisher to take care of to work on it. But anyway, that's just here or there. But yeah, the place that you can find all this is danportik.com, and danportik.com, and that'll kind of lead you through to the different websites I have and companies, as well as the books that I have to offer.
Awesome. Now that is a big jump. As a writer, that's a big jump to go from nonfiction to fiction. Totally different headspace, way of
Yeah,
structuring and planning.
mhm.
What, just as a writer, I'm curious, what was it like to make that transition? Because I have some fiction ideas running around in my head too, but God seems to keep pushing me toward the nonfiction at this point.
Yeah.
But I think that those ideas are there for a reason, and one of these days he'll give me the go to pursue the fiction. How did you make that jump from fiction to nonfiction?
Yeah, so it was just weird because we walk, my wife and I, up until recently, walked every day. We would go out and we would see deer out there. Okay, and let me go back a step. I learned the process of writing books, and I learned the process of publishing, and I'll explain that in a little bit. But by being able to do that, it was a lot easier for me to plug in this next subject. So anyway, we're walking every day, and we every day we see deer. For our city is just completely full of deer. I don't know why, rural city, but they're everywhere. So anyway, every time you have a deer, and they get very close now because they're comfortable with humans. So you have that uneasy feeling when you walk past them. What are they going to do? Because they're a wild animal. So I built on that thought, and I'm like, what if they really became aggressive, and they got possessed by aliens, and it just kept going. And I was pulling from different movies I've seen, and it ended up being a 400-page thing by the time I was done. But so anyway, it builds on that, and it goes through a whole process and talks about different people. But as I was every day, I would just write, and I think the whole key behind writing is you first want to create a thing called a brain dump, and basically you just take everything that you're thinking about and you write it on a page, and just keep typing, keep typing. You'd be surprised how fast you can get to 20,000 words by doing that. And then you want to get a ghostwriter. You want to get someone that knows how to write and structure books and make it read well. Once you get that ghostwriter, then everything starts falling into place and starts sounding like a book. And you'll know pretty quick if this is something that you can publish or sound looks good. And then the third step you want to have, which you could probably do with AI now, but someone with grammar that can go through and make sure all the punctuations are proper and things of that nature. So that's the basic steps of developing a book. Self-publish is the way I would suggest to go right away. You can get into like funding things through GoFundMe, but I think that's your first steps to making a book. So I followed those steps, and we're to the point where we're ready to publish it now, and I might throw it in front of some publishers and see what they say soon, just to see. We did, since I do have one publisher I work with, and we did have a best-selling book. He's willing to listen and at least point me in the right direction. He may not do fiction, but he might know somebody that does. So
Sure. That sounds exciting and quite an adventure. Um,
fun.
but yeah, so it's been great having you on the show. Are there any thoughts that you would like to leave the audience with today?
Uh, yeah, you know what? Regarding God, I mean, He's there in all your times, good or bad. you know. And whether he's struggling now or not, I mean, pick up a Bible, read it, you know, look at the things around you. Look for clues, I guess would be a good thing. Clues and nudges, because they're out there everywhere. And sometimes people just choose to avoid them, but if you embrace them, they'll help you, and he'll put you on the right path. He will.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much for joining me today.
Oh,
Don't
thanks
forget
for
to
having me.
swipe, tap, or click over to deborahhenne.com. Follow me on social on Twitter, Instagram, or Facebook at Deborah Henne Author. And let's not forget to tune into our thoughts to make sure they sound like Jesus's, so they sound like freedom.